Hello, lion leaders. We have a saying, where there's a need, there's a lion. For more than a century, lions have been called upon to take on some of the greatest challenges facing our world. Today is no different. Lions Clubs International and Lions in the U.S. have been asked by the White House coordinator for Operation Allies to help meet an urgent humanitarian challenge happening right here at home. More than 100,000 Afghan men, women, and children have been evacuated and are either already here or on their way to settle in the United States. Many of these allies aided our troops in Afghanistan, putting themselves and their families at risk. Now they are trying to start a new life here in America. These families need help as they try to make a fresh start. It's a significant undertaking that would require significant commitment from our clubs. And I am looking to you, our Lion leaders, to help in determining if this is something our Lions would want and be able to support. So I ask that you carefully consider this opportunity. Once we assess the interest and the capacity of our clubs, we can determine if it is something that's right for Lions International and our clubs here in the U.S. Thank you for considering this opportunity and for your incredible service from the heart. I truly value your input.
Good evening, fellow Lions, guests, fellow panelists. We are now about to start our panel discussion. So we now call this meeting to order, the panel discussion to start, and we will have the playing of the national anthem of Barbados. will now have a word of prayer, and we will be led in the invocation by Lion Sherwin Greenwich, past Progressive Melvin Jones Fellow, past Council Chairperson.
Most Heavenly Father, creator of this vast universe, we invoke your presence in our discussion this evening as we commemorate the 72nd World Health Day. We thank you for what you bring us today. Like to see inside ourselves, that peace to go on believing and the faith to walk in darkness. As we reflect on the effects of unhealthy lifestyles and bad environmental practices on our planet and our health, we ask, Lord, that you keep us under the shadow of your mercy in this time of uncertainty, anxiety, and distress. Sustain and support those in need, the anxious and the fearful. Give us strength, Heavenly Father, and lift up all who are brought to comfort the fearful, to tend to the sick of COVID-19, and to assure the isolated of our love and of your love, knowing that nothing can separate us from your love. Thank you, Lord, for everything we receive from you. Amen.
Thank you, Lion Sherwin. We will now have the welcoming and opening remarks by Lion Diana Jordan, Melvin Jones Fellow, Zone Chairperson. Lion Diana.
Thank you, Lion Norma. Mrs. Frances Bascom, Chief Environmental Officer. Ms. Norma Bino, Chief Public Health Officer. Ms. Sheena Ramsey, Pharmacist. Mr. Gay Griffith, Vice President, Sales, Sagicor Life Incorporated, Barbados. Lion President, Dr. John Mwanza from the Barbados Water Authority. Ms. Rosemary Aline, Moderator. Distinguished Lions, Leos, my fellow Leos, Lions, guests, good evening to all. I am Lion Diana Jordan, Melvin Jones Fellow, Zone Chairperson, Zone 3A. First, let me extend a cordial welcome and my deepest gratitude to all attending. I am especially delighted to represent my fellow Lions and Leos at this evening's Zone World Health Day virtual plan discussion under the theme, Our Health, Our Planet. I feel even more honored to welcome the distinguished panel of health personnel who I am sure are well qualified and ready to deliver on the wide area of health and the environment. I welcome more particularly you, the viewing audience, and our participating audience for whom this program has been planned. This present virtual presentation is a COVID-19 replacement for the annual Zone Physical Health Fair mounted in Hero Square on World Food Day, and this was done merely on behalf of the general public. The zone apologizes for the absence of the general supply of health literature for you to take home and peruse at your leisure. But please consider what you have gained in exchange of that brochure. The pleasure of sitting in the comfort of your home and having the same information presented to you in a graphic manner by the experts themselves in person. The innovation also allows for a much wider listenership, and this would include the shut-ins and the persons with limited mobility. This program is extremely timely in view of the ongoing spike in the COVID-19 infections in Barbados and the growing hand, foot, and mouth disease among our children. But my responsibility is not to anticipate or direct attention to any special area of health for discussion. So let me stick to what I have been requested to do, and that is to welcome all of you here this evening, both the presenters and the audience, and to trigger the start of what I predict will be most exciting and informative session. So, moderator, distinguished panelists, audience, fellow Lions and Leos, I thank you.
Thank you, Lion Diana. We will now turn over our evening session to Miss Rosemary Allen, moderator, who will introduce the panelists and start our roaring rounds of discussion this evening. Miss Rosemary, I turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. We have a very distinguished panel to discuss this theme for World Health Day this year. Norma Boyce, she started her nursing career after completing her nursing certificate in general nursing. She then went on to the Tercentenary School and completed a diploma in midwifery. She is a holder of the Diploma in Community Health, certificate in public administration and law from the University of the West Indies as well. She is a holder of a master's in public health, Nurse Bino, worked at the QEH for many years before joining the public health system. She is currently the chief public health nurse acting. We also have Sheena Ramsey. Sheena is a holder of a BSc in pharmacy from the University of the West Indies. She is a practicing community pharmacist for the last 14 years. She attained her associate degree in pharmacy at the age of 20. And at that time, one of the youngest to have attained that degree. She had to wait for about 6 months to legally practice in Barbados. We have Miss Francia Bascom. She was first employed as a public health inspector. We now call them environmental health officers. That was way back in 1985. She then went on to complete a certificate in public health at the Barbados Community College. She was appointed to the post of senior environmental health officer in June 2014, and she holds that position from then until now. In 2017, though, she was appointed to the post of chief environmental health officer. She holds a BSc in management from the UWI, and then she also went on to complete her master's in public health at the UWI in Mona. And finally, John Wanza, he is the former acting general manager of the Barbados Water Authority. He is currently the technical advisor to the Barbados Water Authority Board. His specialization is in water resource planning and management, and he is currently the president of the Christchurch West Lions Club. Welcome, everybody. I hope everybody is hearing.
Yes, we can hear you.
Rosemary, excuse me 1 minute. Rosemary, you
Yes,
left one of our panelists, Mr. Gay Griffith.
Oh my, Mr. Griffith, that is not intentional at all. I have you here, but the pages probably just got stuck together. We are also joined by Gay Griffith. He's the vice president sales, has been vice president sales at Sagicor since 2015. And I know that he has had a very highly successful career in the insurance industry and has had various roles in sales and management with Sagicor Life. He's been working in the industry for about 50 years. He is a member of that prestigious $1 million roundtable and a winner of many industry awards. Welcome, 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 Mr. Griffith.
You know, start our panel discussion. So Rosemary, the floor is yours.
Yes. World Health Day 2022. We have a very interesting theme this year, our planet, our health. And many people wonder about that theme. How do the two things connect? So I want to give each panelist an opportunity to speak to how they see this theme this year connecting to our daily lives. We can probably start with Mr. Griffith.
Yeah, good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much for inviting me to share with you this evening. Health insurance is a very important aspect. And one of the things that we have found in the insurance industry is that persons tend to only think of health insurance when a situation arises. And normally when that happens, it is too late. So our world, our health, very important. And as we go through this evening, I will be sharing a couple ideas with you because I believe that everyone should have health insurance, just that everyone should have life insurance, just that everyone should prepare for their retirement. Health insurance is one of those aspects that one should have in their program. And the thing about it is that health insurance, as important as it is, if you have your own health insurance plan, it helps you to take the burden off government because government can't do all on their own. And what you're saying is we're allowing persons and suggesting to persons to take care of themselves, because if you can take care of yourself, because most plans nowadays, I must say, carry preventative care. So it is not just your state of health, but continuing to do the things on an annual basis to maintain such health. So that is how I see this theme being very important, encouraging persons to take care of their health on an ongoing basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Griffith. And this is a good opportunity now for Norma Boyce, Ms. Boyce, to come in here and tell us what she thinks.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Rosemary. It's Norma Bino.
Bino, yes, thank you.
Thank you too. When the theme was presented, it asks 3 questions. Are we able to reimagine a world where clean air, water, and food are available to all, where economies are focused on health and well-being, and where cities are livable and people have control over their health and the health of the planet? I want to start by saying that if we are healthy, our world is healthy. So we try to follow the principles set out in the preamble of WHO, where they are saying that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. They also give definitions like the enjoyment of the highest attainable standard of health is one of the fundamental rights of every human being without distinction of race, religion, political belief, economy, and social condition. And then there are others that were mentioned, but we'll go into those. And I also looked up about economy of well-being. And I take a citation from Angela Gurria, I suppose that's her name, G-U-R-R-I-A, who was OECD's Secretary General. In September 2019, she said, the economy of well-being is defined as the capacity to create a virtuous circle in which citizens' well-being drives economic prosperity. And things like it specifically highlights the need for putting people at the center of policy and moving away from an attitude of grow fast, redistribute, and clean up later towards a growth model that is equitable and sustainable from the outset.
Okay.
And I also check about the livable cities. Christy Daniel said, a livable city is well designed and compact. It allows people to walk to school, work, to stores, parks, restaurants. It permits them to take transportation to places outside of their neighborhood, provides them with access to sanitation, water, clean air, safe, affordable housing, and healthy food. And this is for everyone, including women, children, the poor, people with disabilities, and all these will be able to meet their day-to-day needs and enjoy community life. So I see where Barbados is on the move to being a livable city who's looking after their people well, and we ourselves would contribute to our own healthy living. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is a good opportunity now for Ms. Bascom to come in. Ms. Bascom? Good evening. We're not hearing you, no.
Oh, apparently it went mute again on me. Let me hope it don't slip out. When I first heard about the topic, I think I was told of it in the context of universal health coverage. Well, when we are looking at the environment, we talk about our planet, our health. And from 1978, there was a declaration at Alma Mater which spoke about health for all. And at that time, we were looking for health for all. By the year 2000, we came and we came with the Millennium Development Goals. And by 2015, we had about 8 goals and we were to achieve all of those. And in 2022, we are working with from 2015, the Sustainable Development Goals, and there are 17 of those. But at the root of all of them, you find that the environment is what drives those goals. And you know, we always talk about the environment, but what exactly is our environment? The environment is our surroundings, the conditions in which we live, our animals, our plants, everything. Everything is in our environment. And we're realizing more and more, and we're linking it to what we call climate change. And the big link between climate change and health. And we're saying that climate change is being caused by the greenhouse gases that trap heat from the sun and warms the surface of the earth. And I think we all can identify with what is happening with climate change. Our weather has changed, and there's a difference between weather and climate change. I had that training session only yesterday, but our weather patterns have changed. No longer can we say this is rainy season, this is dry season. Things are changing. Our nights are cooler when they used to be more warmer at nights. Now we're cooler. Up to this point, I think we're still a little cooler than we used to be at before. So the oceans are rising. Sea levels are rising, is affecting what is happening in the ocean. Or you know, one time we used to have so much flying fish. Where are they now? And all of it can be linked to us, what we are doing to impact on this planet is impacting on our health. We are always hearing about the increased NCDs and that link between climate change and what is happening. And then we can look and see what is happening. What are we doing as a community, as an individual, as a government to impact on this planet and impacting on our health. So we know from my end, I'm environmental health. So our services are basically concerned with aspects of the environment that can prevent a risk to health, such as poor housing, a safe supply of food and water. And Dr. Wanzer is here, and I'm sure he's going to tell you all about the safe water that we have here in Barbados. The control of pests that can spread infections. And for me, we talk about dengue, leptospirosis, mosquito and our rodent-borne diseases are things we are concerned about, and we can see if we don't take care of our planet, that they would impact on us. All right,
Thank
so
you.
I'll finish at that point.
Thank you. And I want now to bring here Miss Ramsey.
Hi, good night, everyone.
Yes,
Good
good,
night,
good
other
evening.
panelists. Basically, then, from my point of view, I believe that we, as a people, we have control over our own health. So we are the captains of our health. Basically, what we eat, what we do, basically, all of that contributes to our own health. Along with the other panelists too as well, you can see how environmental issues also impact on our health. As environmental, where we would have mosquitoes, vectors, leptospirosis, that type of thing. All of these things play an important part to basically help with our health and impact upon our health. I think we as a people just need to focus on healthy lifestyles. A lot of people will say, man, I eat healthy, I do this and I do that. But I think basically a lot of people do not understand what it means to live a healthy lifestyle. I think things like exercise is important, and not only a healthy lifestyle in terms of physical well-being, but also with mental well-being too as well. There are a lot of factors which influence a lot of people nowadays, and it's not only just physical, it's also mental too as well. Mental health really plays a big part in a lot of things nowadays. The whole healthcare profession is not, in terms of pharmacy, is just not drugs as well. It's about educating people, because I find a lot of people, when it comes to their health, is like, well, my doctor say I got sugar, and that's it. They don't, the perception, a lot of people don't understand the perception of what that means and then how it influences your health. We basically have control. You have diabetes, you try to eat right, you try to diet, you try to exercise a couple days a week. Everything is not hard and fast. I tell people all the time, start slow. Start with 5 minutes of exercise a day, then probably 15, and then hopefully we get up to that half an hour mark. But everything is not so rigid. It's not the end of the world if you come down with a non-communicable disease. It is what you do and is the part you play in that makes a difference. People with high blood pressure too. There are people walking around blood pressure very high, and you only see them when, oh, I have a headache, my pressure must be high. But sometimes all you need to do is just have a talk, educate people on their lifestyles, taking medication too as well. And there are also things that we can do, even sitting down with family members. I find sometimes not only the person might not know, but it's a family type of situation where in this day and age, everybody must be on board, not just the person. Everybody in the family must be on board with what's happening in that person's lifestyle. As environmental too as well. Sometimes there are things that are out of our control, but once you know your triggers, once you know things that affect you, you're able to rise above. And basically, as I say, we are the captains of our own health. We just need to know what we need to do. We need to implement it, however slowly, but in all, we need to just basically try. That's my take on it.
Thank you very much. And finally, the word from you, Dr. Wansa.
Hello, good evening, everybody. As the theme says, our health, our planet, our health. Our health is entirely dependent on the health of the planet. And as Ms. Bascom indicated, the health of the planet is under threat from climate change, and those climate change projected impacts are a result of our human activities. So for us to have good health, we have to have a healthy climate or earth. If you look at the health of the human being from a water supply standpoint, you need good quality water. And if you ask most Bajans what makes the quality of the water in Barbados, good quality water. They'll tell you the coral rock. That's only part of the truth. It is the control of what we do on the ground. With the climate change, it is expected that we will reduce the available rainfall in the Caribbean by about 20%. It is projected that we'll have temperature rises, which will mean an increased demand for water, both for drinking water as well as for agriculture. Our population is increasing. To increase the population, we have to increase the food supply. To increase the food supply, you need water. So if we are going to get a reduction in rainfall, it means we are also going to get a reduction in the amount of water available for food production. You cannot be healthy on an unbalanced diet. You have to have a good diet to be healthy. And almost every food on this earth needs water to be produced. In the processing, you may need to wash the food or the raw material. And in the process also of production, you will need water. We cannot survive and be healthy without drinking clean water. So the two themes, to me, the two portions of the theme tie the knot very nicely, because our health is dependent on a healthy planet, and we have some control on how healthy that planet is.
Thank you very much, all the panelists. I have been listening to you and I've been taking notes. Mr. Griffith talked about how important health insurance is. It takes the burden off government. Ms. Bino talked about the importance of clean water and control over our health. Ms. Bascom spoke to what is the environment, climate change. Ms. Ramsey spoke to being captains of our own health. She spoke about the importance of mental health. And finally, Dr. Wanza, you talked about health being entirely dependent on the health of our planet. And I sat here and I said, all of us know all of these things. We, the general population, the policymakers, the politicians, but yet we are here tonight trying to tie and to tell and to inform everybody about the importance of our planet, our health. We know what to do. What is constraining us from reaching the goals that I think it was Ms. Bascom talked about in 2015? This is 2022, and we still probably haven't reached 10 of the goals. What is constraining us to understand that we need to make this place we call home, planet Earth? What is constraining us from doing all of the things you all have talked about?
If I may start, part of the constraint is that we see it as somebody else's role. The government will do it on our behalf. The Ministry of Health will do it for us. We don't see the role that we play in it. Let me give you an example. If you have leftover medicines or chemicals, there are some people who will throw those into the toilet bowl. And that's where their thought process stops. They don't see what happens after they throw those items into the toilet bowl. Where does it end up? Or if you use more water than you need for the purposes that you need, that you're using that water for. Do you realize that you're depriving somebody else of that water, either for drinking or for manufacturing? We see it as something that is only to be provided by somebody else. The water resource, the Barbados Water Authority will deal with it. It starts at individual level. And that's the point that we need to drive home. The individual activities combined will bring the result that we want. And we'll be in a position to go to government and say, look, this is what we have done at an individual level. This is what we're capable of doing. And this is what you as government can do. And you should be doing. We can then push government to do its half of the story.
I'm glad you mentioned we are thinking that it's always somebody else's problem. Somebody needs to fix it. And Ms. Bascom made a very important statement at the beginning when she spoke about what is the environment. You know, nowadays when people hear about the environment, to me, they think it is something out there, but they don't understand, like Ms. Bascom said, that is your surroundings around your house. You need to keep around your house clean, get rid of all the coconut shells, the buckets and everything that would harbor mosquitoes. So Ms. Bascom, help me here. How can we make our neighbors, our sisters, our brothers understand that the environment is your surroundings?
I think all of them have an idea that's what it is. But however, just as Dr. Wanza said, people just see everything as it's not my problem, it is somebody else's problem. So if you want something done, don't mind it at me, you need to do it. But then when you come by me to do it, it's an issue. We have tried, we try educating people. And I think we can't help but harp on that. We need to educate our people. But I think we have so many educational programs. Our health promotional department put information out there. We have it now, we do social media, you do GIS. We know GIS might be restricted to certain persons, so they're using the social media events, and it seems to make no difference. You talk about containers or mosquito breeding. When we have a dengue outbreak, when we go at some of the premises where the persons have been identified, the mosquitoes are breeding at their premises, and you would think, okay, I have dengue fever. The cause of it is because of a mosquito bite. Let me look around my premises and see, do I have any breeding sources? So our persons have the knowledge, but their attitude and their practices are not in line in what we expect of them. So it still comes down to trying to get the message out there. I don't know what different strategies we can use for persons to take action. I think we've been trying. And yes, people know as much as we say, yes, it's the environment, but it means nothing to them. It is not important to them until something major. It has to be something major, not nothing minor, that will cause them to understand, I need to do something different. Actions is what is causing problems.
Ms. Bino, since you work in community nursing, what is your experience with people when you meet the ordinary Bajan? How do you talk to them about things like controlling their health and letting them understand that clean air, clean water, all of these things we need to survive on this planet?
We have to see everyone on a one-on-one basis. You may go into a home and everything looks spick and span, but these children look really good. What do they like to eat? Them don't like to eat nothing. I got breadfruit tree out there and them just like macaroni and cheese. Or you may go for one reason. You may go to see a mother who has had a recent birth. And I tell the younger nurses, you start to look on the approach to the house, and you can see so many things. If there is, camp surrounding, if there's water draining anywhere, the step is broken, you can fall. When you go in, you check the other members of the family. You may have an elderly person, you can zero in on them and if they've taken their medications or whatever. The other children, if they're going to school, the same mother, if she's breastfeeding, or if she's ready to make bottles. How are you sterilizing these bottles? It's one famous thing that we must find, because they can't take bottles into the hospital because we have breastfeeding initiatives. That is one of the things that is big for the island. But yet when they get home, Granny say, look, give that child a bottle here and let me feed it. And things like this. So we do look around and see what it is that can be a priority for behavior change. And we work on that. Go back in and see if they have made any changes, if we have to do any referrals. And we get to a lot of people out there in the community.
I want to bring in Mr. Griffith here, but I think I should go to Sheena, Ms. Ramsey, and ask her, how do we, a lot of what is coming out from some of the panelists already is that we need to focus more on education, talking to people, because we got all these things, we got social media, we got this and that, but the social media, we are using for the wrong reasons. And Sheena, you seem to be the youngest out of all of us. How do you really reach people to let them understand that, as you say, they're captains of their own health and everything is interconnected?
Well, you actually said it before me, because I was actually going to say, once again, it seems like I'm the baby of the bunch, as always. But I find relatability, basically, that is the best thing for people. Because I find, for me personally, I don't get to go out into the field. Most people actually come and visit me. But I find when you talk to people on their level and you have a conversation with them, sometimes it might take 10, sometimes it might take 20 minutes. But once you basically get to their level and you have a conversation with them, obviously it's not possible all the time, especially with COVID and what's not. But I find when you have that conversation with people and you ask the right questions, sometimes you're able to reach them, sometimes you're able to get to the root of the problem. Because you would find people coming in, and an example, they have a fungus on their toes, their feet, and they've been trying the drops, they've been using the creams, they've been using the tablets, and they keep getting it. It's still coming back, it's still coming back. And then you ask them something simple as, did you change your socks? Did you clean your shoes? And it's like, oh no, I didn't think I had to do that because I was getting medication for the problem. But people then do not understand that their actions and what they do actually create or actually keep the problem happening all the time. And I think we can actually relate that to a lot of things in life. Same thing with the environment, like Ms. Bascom said. I find things only hit home when something really serious happens to somebody's family member, like a mother, a brother, a sister. It's only when it hit home and something major happens to somebody that is like, oh shoot, we gotta wash these cans, we gotta make sure that we ain't got no water, collecting for containers. Even there's new initiatives. You have the recycle bins now. You have, all these things have been around for long, but I find people just are, I guess, blissfully unaware of certain things. As a young person, I find social media like IG and stuff is really helpful. Even Twitter is actually really helpful for getting things across. I find once a major singer or it has a catchy jingle, somebody usually remembers it. You might be sitting there, calmly, not doing anything, and all of a sudden you bustle in a GIS jingle. I think there was one with the mosquitoes recently, the one with the political picketing and stuff. That one stuck with me like forever. That was the funniest thing I've ever watched. And there are people that if you share that with, is like up to now, they'll remember it. So I find the ads and stuff do help over time. It may not hit home immediately, but sometimes you would think back and say, wait, oh shoot, let me turn over this container. Oh shoot, let me do this. And I think it still impacts people in a particular way. Once again, education is the key. And it's not only educating to let people know, you have to make sure they understand. Because sometimes you have people, they leave doctor's offices, they come to the pharmacy and they start to ask you a whole bunch of questions. And it's like, but didn't you go to the doctor? You know, yeah, but I forgot, or it's like the doctor told me, but they just didn't understand. And sometimes I find, even though we're all healthcare professionals, sometimes people see you on certain different levels, and they might more come and talk to a pharmacist about their issues, and they will go to a doctor type of thing. So, as I said, relatability. Sometimes you just have to get down to the person's level and just have a conversation, treat them like any other person, and hear what they have to say, listen to what they're saying, look for cues, look for things. Sometimes people come in from conditions and it's like they're blaming the environment, blaming everything. But then when you ask them what soap they're using,
Yes.
the Bader Blue soap.
Right.
So it happens. So I would say education, relatability, that type of stuff plays a big part.
I want to talk to Mr. Griffith now and ask him, in his 40+ year career, how are the health professionals now helping you to get your message across that health insurance is important?
Most of the other persons that were speaking, but you can call me gay, you know, it is okay. You can call me gay. Is that all right? All right?
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm happy and joyful, okay?
Okay.
Now, most of the people, right, that would have, let's say, spoken so far, my fellow panelists, right, most of what they do and the efforts that are required by persons are natural and simple things that you are asking persons to do. Whereas with the insurance element is a cost implication. So that's where I am a little different to the others, you know? So ain't just turn over the thing that you don't want to get mosquitoes, or make sure you change your soap, or make sure you use soap. I am one of a cost. So our education has been to advertise and to tell people to come and deal with it. But what we don't like to do, that's the best way, what we don't like to do and what we stay away from doing is to kind of like use a person's bad experience or hard experience to publicize, because that's not cool, right? But there are many, many people that have purchased health insurance that have had serious situations. And as much as government would want to do, situations sometimes turn up and you could be fined one day, you go the next day and you get checked for something, and something has happened in a week, 2 months, whatever the case may be. Your situation could be so dire that you have to be sent overseas. Now, who is going to be able to meet? If you're lucky, you might be able to get on a plane and on a regular paying passenger and go to get treated overseas. But in a lot of situations, it could simply be a car accident. It could be something that is dire, and you have to be airlifted out of the island. We're talking over $100,000 just to get you from one location to another location. The only place that could fix that is immediate would be an insurance policy, a health insurance policy. And most companies would carry a health insurance card. Let's talk about that card. You turn up at a US hospital and you don't have that card, you still in the lobby? Because nobody wants to see you. You must be able to bring something to get something. That's the way it works in the world. So I think that the fact that you can have health insurance when you are young, because the principle is still the same. You buy it when you don't need it, so that when you need it, you have it. That's how it works all the time. Because if you ever try to buy it when you have the problem, you don't get it because it's too late. So whether it be critical illness, whether it be normal health insurance, we try to encourage person, get yourself insured to prepare yourself for what will happen, because there's one guarantee I can give you, and that guarantee is that we will all get sick. I can't tell you what it will be that we will have, but we will all get sick. And therefore, buying something when you are not sick, so that when you are sick, you can be covered, is always a smart thing to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand that, but there's something else I'm going to come back at you with, and that is in terms of cost, but that's a little later. I want to talk about the World Health Organization is telling us that climate crisis is the single biggest threat to humanity. We have just come out of an extreme weather event we had last year. We had the La Soufrière eruption. We get these big plumes of Sahara dust coming across from time to time. And we have the COVID-19 pandemic. One planet. Everybody's living on one planet. I think, and I don't know if you would share my view, but I think that the COVID-19 pandemic has shown us the interconnectedness of this landmass on which we live. How are we going to manage all these threats that are really a reality? Because when we started celebrating World Health Day 70 something years ago, I don't think the framers ever envisaged that this would be happening in our world. And a lot of the things that are happening on this planet, humans are causing the problems. How can we, or what is the way forward? That's the way I have to ask everybody. What is the way forward? And I really want to start with the water issues, because we've been having water issues for the last, as far as I have been living on this earth for 63 years, and I have never known Barbadians in one parish not having water, another parish not having water, and for these extended periods. How can we, Dr. Wansa, how can we manage this crisis in water? Because I think we are going into the dry season now. So this is a good opportunity for you to help us. Tell us about conserving. What can we do?
The part of the problem with water and water resources management is that the majority of what happens is not visible to the public eye. For example, I took some people into Coles Cave this morning, and I asked them, look up in the roof of the cave. Do you see any water dripping through there? They said no. Do you see any lake of water below here? Because there's a public perception that the island is floating on a big lake which holds the groundwater supply. And they were able to see that there's no big lake out there. If you look at our existing water mains, the water mains are below ground. The first public water supply source was put in 1856 from St. John to Bridgetown. We just managed to change some of it 2 years ago. And that main would also have extended on Highway 1 to Ho Town. We changed a piece of it when we did the work on Highway 1. But essentially, unless you work in the water industry, most people don't realize that the water, as much as we get in that much rain, most of that rain is lost when the water evaporates, and some of it is used up by the plants. So you end up with people thinking every drop that falls on the ground is available for us to use, which is not the case. We are not called a water scarce country because people don't like us. We are called a water scarce country because when you count the amount of water that is available for us to use, and you try and allocate that to each individual on the island, we only have less than 300 cubic meters per person per year. And that 300 cubic meters per person per year does not mean that person is the only one who has access to it. That water has to be used to produce the drinks. That water has to be used to produce the food. So it's a shared resource. And the impacts of climate change are such that what we currently have is also going to be reduced. There's another impact that is expected from climate change: sea level rise. Most of our water is pumped from aquifers, which are close to the coastline, where the fresh water floats on top of seawater. When the sea level happens, the salt water comes into the freshwater lanes. And so you start tasting the salt. That salt increase can impact your life and your health. So we need to manage how much we pump so that we don't bring up much salt with that water. And the other thing is that to produce the food that we need, we are applying chemicals. And when you apply the chemicals, the excess washes down and becomes part of the groundwater. So it impacts the quality of the water. There is a point at which that water is not suitable for drinking water purposes. And that once that happens, it will increase the cost of providing that water because you have to provide additional water treatment to remove those chemicals out of the water and make it meet the drinking water standards.
I asked you specifically, I brought you in at this point specifically because over the last 7 days or so, there has been a large discussion on the call-in programs about drinking sweetened and unsweetened beverages, drinking water. And I want to bring in Ms. Bino and Ms. Ramsey here as they work in the community and we talk about these unhealthy lifestyles. In your experiences, are you working now with the patients, the people that you interact with, and telling them and talking to them about the importance of changing maybe their drinking habits, encouraging them to drink more of this good Barbados water that we always are talking about to achieve a healthy lifestyle? Ms. Bino or Ms. Ramsey, you can come in here.
Yes, Ms. Bino here. It's interesting that you say that because, research has shown that there has been a decrease in the sale of the sweetened drinks and an increase in the sale of water. But you almost, when you in the clinics and the children come, a parent will probably say, it's easy for me to give you a buster. I know at least he's gonna drink something. Then he ain't gonna drink no water. So it is the education of the parent. The child would do what they learn, what they see at home, whatever. So we take every opportunity in the clinics to speak to that because we are seeing a lot of childhood obesity. We are having discussions on adolescent health that can take this obesity and so into adulthood. and the consequences of that ill behavior. So
But-
we go ahead.
And in listening to you talking, would you say that our unhealthy lifestyles are a sign of, and anybody can jump in here after you, of economic prosperity? That our unhealthy lifestyles are a direct result of what we would call economic prosperity? Buying the Buster instead of drinking water, because the Buster, you see the ads on TV. The battle is on the television. They tell you drink water, but you know, you sit down and you with your children watching the news, they're advertising Buster, they're advertising these cakes from these different places. So the competing images showing you that,
Sorry?
showing you that drinking a Buster or eating this cake from these places, crumbs, and you know, this is it. That's what the advertising does.
That's what they're supposed to do. Encourage you
Exactly.
to buy this stuff.
So
Encourage
then
you.
it's yours now to tell that lady that brings the child, oh, he ain't gonna drink no water. He ain't gonna drink no water. He want Buster.
Yeah,
Buster-
Let me chip in. Ms. Bino made a point there that they've noted a reduction in the sale of sweet drinks. And there's been an increase in the sale of water. Now, let me give you an example. If you buy the pep drink, the 2-liter pep bottle, the price of that is how much? It's about $6 for 2 liters of the pep drink. And it takes 500 of those 2-liter bottles to fill a cubic meter, which you will pay $2.50 for if you buy the water from the Water Authority below the 8 cubic meters. And if you are buying more than 40 cubic meters a month, the highest price you are going to pay per cubic meter is going to be $7.78. If you buy an equivalent cubic meter of that pep drink, you are going to be paying $6 times 500. That's $3,000 you are spending if you buy the equivalent of a cubic meter of drinks. And if you buy bottled water, the price is about the same range, 3,000 cubic meters, or $3,000, per cubic meter. But people will refuse to pay their water bill or an increase in the water bill. And yet they'll go and pay for the bottled water, and they'll go and pay for the soft drink. I tell people the best way, if you think you need to clean the water before you drink it, the best option is to use what they call a point of use filter. This is a filter that you have at your house. If you use that to clean your water, it is going to cost you, and drink that water is going to cost you much less than the 3,000 cubic dollars that you're going to pay. Even if you spend $600 to buy that point of use filter, it is going to last you longer than it will take you 5 months to recover the cost of the bottled water at that price. So my advice would be, if you're scared that the water is not clean, don't waste your money on bottled water. Get a filter, install it at home, and filter the water that you need to drink. And if the water price increases by $1, you'll still be paying much less than you pay for the pep drink or the bottled water.
Anybody else wants to jump in here before I be the devil's advocate here with Dr. Wansa?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Basically, I think we cultivate these bad habits. if you look at certain people, if every time the child cries, you give the child water, the child will grow up to learn, okay, when I'm thirsty, I'll drink water. If you find, as you say, the easiest and the quickest thing is a sweet drink, you will find that that child would then develop a habit for stuff like sweet drinking, snacks and corn curls and that type of thing. Another thing is accessibility, because the quickest thing to go and do is to pick up a sweet drink. Obviously, some taxes and stuff would have been implemented to try to deter people from doing that. But I'm sure the people that drink Cokes, no matter how expensive a Coke is, they can still buy it because that's what they crave, that's what they like, that's what they're so accustomed. Because a habit is something very, very hard to break. But if you look at the supermarkets, the most healthiest things that you would actually find to buy are always the most expensive.
I'm
So
glad
you
you
would often hear people say, I
correct.
cannot afford to eat healthy. Look at cassava flour compared to regular flour. Who will
Yes.
buy cassava flour when they can buy 3 bags of normal flour?
Nobody.
So it's stuff like that that it would be good to get. Exactly. It'll be good to have healthier things more affordable. I guess that's what the government's trying to do, like the vitamins and that type of stuff. But food stuff in particular, that is the main thing I hear people complaining in the pharmacy. They want to eat healthy, they're trying to eat healthy, but the price of certain things, it makes life
Out
a
of
bit hard. So even if
Yeah.
you want to do it, exactly, they can't. So
Yes.
as I say, I recommend always a step down thing. Stop drinking sweet drinks, switch to juices. And if you want to switch to juices, try water. Don't try to go straight from sweet drinks to water. It will never work. So, cut back a little bit. If I drink 6 drinks, cut back.
I'm glad you talked about that because I am here listening to Dr. Wansa talking about drinking water. Yes, you have to drink water, but we have to get real, as the young people will say. You got Miss Jones down the road. She got 3 small children, 10, 7, and 5. She's not working anywhere. She probably lost her job recently. And she has to find food for these children, healthy food, as we would say. This person cannot afford it. And to think that we live in a world where systems produce highly processed food and beverages. And that is what my generation, the generation before me, and I guess this one now, this is what they're exposed to. So how do we get the road to getting them to understand that they need to change and adopt healthy lifestyles for our planet to survive? And when our planet survives, humanity survives. And one of the things I wanted to ask the Miss Boyce, Miss Bino, and you I think Miss Ramsey, about when we're talking about healthy lifestyles and so on. How do we get our people to go back to eating foods that are not so heavily processed? How do we get people to go back to eating yams, potatoes, eddas, breadfruit? How do we get people to redevelop? Because the younger people now, because I know I have grandchildren, I don't think that they eat breadfruit cuckoo. They don't eat breadfruit. They would eat breadfruit chips if they're fried. So, we know the things that are happening. How do we get people's taste now to change from this highly processed food to help Gay to get people to start buying the health insurance when they are healthy?
I can help you. Close down Shafet, close down Kentucky, shut down all televisions, and we good to go. All right?
That is living in a utopia. That is not going to happen. This evening, I passed here in 6 Roads, and at 3 o'clock was out in the road blocking traffic going north. So how do we manage this crisis that we are in? This crisis to save our planet and to save ourselves, save our health.
And the second part of it is that most of the parents nowadays are working. Most of the grandparents are working. So except for Sheena, most of us on this call would have grown up in an environment where when we came home from school, somebody was there. You know what I mean? When you came home from school, somebody was there. And when Granny cooked something for you, it wasn't this or that, it was this. Okay? And when you take this, you can eat this, because when you don't eat it, there's nothing that's coming. When you don't
Correct.
drink this, there's nothing that's coming. There are no other options. But I think that we have gone to a world now where we've given people choices. I've actually said to some of my friends that when the history is written, when you and I and all of us are no longer here, we will probably go down as the worst parents that existed, because we gave the children too many choices. Maybe not for this discussion, but I think that we have to take some responsibility for how we have allowed too many choices. That's just my thought on that.
Mhm. Anybody else wants to jump in here before I something else?
I agree with Gay about giving too many choices. I remember, like he said, we used to come home on Mondays. It was breadfruit and juices. It was whatever, rice and then sun soup and whatever. We went into the ground and dug up the potatoes. We cut the bananas from off the tree. We planted more, and the neighbor will give you what you don't have. The neighbor will give you, and there was more sharing, more community participation and things like this. Even the youngsters during the summer would meet at the back of somebody's big yard, and you cook up and all this kind of stuff. So as they would say, stew food, and so was not anything different. But we have not introduced our young people, the grandchildren and things like that. What time is it? I better stop and collect something on the way home. I'd better, and you go like that. It's convenient, it's quick, it is easy, it is, I don't have to wash wares. I don't, so
I said, this is prosperity contributing to the unhealthy lifestyles that we all have.
yes. Maybe we can have Chefetta Kentucky, like he is saying, cook ground provisions and things, some healthier foods. Maybe let them try something different with their menu.
They won't make money. They won't make money though.
Yes, that would not sell. But you know what, talked about, and I heard Miss Ramsey talk about that eating. I am glad she said it, that eating healthy food is expensive. Because I am hearing, and I from in my years of working, and I tell the doctors on my program about this, and they will say, no, buy cucumbers, buy this, buy that. I went to the supermarket and took a yam, and it was $26. I had to put it back. One yam for $26. So it's all right to tell people you want them to eat healthy, you want them to, but there is a cost, Gay, there is a cost, Miss Bino, there is a cost, Miss Ramsey, there's a cost, Miss Bascom, there's a cost to all of the things we are here talking about. I see Norma there, so she probably looking to wind us up now, but there's a cost.
Then Dr. Carla has his hand raised, so I don't know if he wanted to make a point before we move on.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, panelists. Lovely discussion. My thoughts resonate with Mr. Griffith's comments about the family structure at that time. When we go home, people will be there for us to go home. And that's true. So in the sense that we have failed this current generation because we have not provided for them adequately enough. And it's also very good and fine to speak about, we have yams and some we used to eat and so on. But this generation today doesn't have that. So we can't quite blame them for not doing things that they don't have any exposure to. Look at Barbados now. It's so hard to find agricultural land that you can actually buy now. People want to buy a house to build all their mansions and so on. So there's no agricultural land left where people can raise kitchen gardens and have billy goats and black belly sheep and so on to ramp out behind. We all had pets growing up. So this generation doesn't have that. So how then do we assist them, or how then do we solve this problem we have? There must be a marriage between the two. So I think we, as the generation exiting now compared to when it's coming in, we need to leave something for them to have. So rather than just leaving mansions and so on for them to inherit, we probably need to put aside some land or something that they can have that will become agricultural park. In England, some people who have they retired, they have garden beds or the rent land or the lease land and so on, that they can go and make marketing stuff to grow foods and so on. Perhaps need to invest in some of that. We blame Chef Fred and we blame KFC. Yes, they have the part to play in that they have high calorie foods, but as rightly said by Mr. Griffith, when you in this current generation leaving your workplace at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock to go home, you're so tired. You're either going home to go online meetings or go to a class or go to another meeting or go to a PTH. You don't have time to go home and cook. So swinging by KFC or the Pizza Man Dog or whoever fast food joint you can find is the best solution, because you can buy the food already prepared. You can divide it amongst 1,000,001 hands so they can consume it, rather than go home now to go and shower and slave over a pot for the next 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on what you're preparing, to give food to a family can't be on. So those quick fix in the fast food is the way to go, but it's not the way to go in terms of being healthy. So what is the solution? So we need to look for a solution that matters, and that's probably the hardest thing that we can find. So it's all good and glorious to say what we have had before, but what can we do to solve it for this current generation? That's where I would like to hear some of the panelists go. So the solutions.
Mm-hmm.
The concept of, as Rosemary pointed out, our economic development and prosperity has brought us where we are.
Yes.
I've been living in Barbados now for 30 years. And during this time, every time the economy goes down, everybody starts a backyard garden.
Yes.
And they are able to produce some of the food that they need.
Mm-hmm.
The minute the economy starts to show signs of going up,
tell me that
the backyard garden is abandoned because of the history attached to producing food and farming.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that we don't want to do. And I agree with Gay. We as parents have contributed to where we are. Because we grew up having to cut grass and feed the animals before we go to work or to school, we decided our children are not going to go through that.
Correct.
So we protect them from that. And then we come and say it's the children's fault, when it is the parents' fault that we are not. So in terms of moving forward, there's a role that can be played, as I started off at the beginning, at individual level, at parent level. If we introduce the children to the right foods, even when they step away from the house, they know what are proper foods to eat. The government can put certain policies in place to try and guide us along and help us. Just like they introduced the tax on sweet drinks. But the tax on sweet drinks alone is not going to stop us from buying those drinks, because once we have the money in the pocket, we will spend it.
Mm-hmm.
So it is at the individual level and at parent level that we need to start.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not push everything to school. Let us start from the household and build up to where we want to go.
I agree with you, Dr. Wanser, talking about starting from the household, and Dr. Goddard was asking about solutions. The solution, one of the solutions to my mind, and this only came to me a few weeks ago, where I live, I can't keep a pig, sheep, chicken, turkey, nothing. All I can have is a dog. These developments that were set up with these ordinances, they need to remove the ordinances so people can at least keep a sheep, a goat, a few chickens for the use of the family. I think that is one of the places that we have to start if we are looking for solutions for self-sufficiency, saving our planet and saving our health.
Okay, I have a question from someone. They're asking about what about the importation of all the processed foods and the different types of pasta, tomato, ketchup that is being imported more and more every week. So to the panelists, that's one of the questions that's being asked.
I don't know who wants to take that because for the health professionals, those pasta sauces and the tomato ketchup, they have a lot of sugar in them too. Barbecue.
My take is really simple. In a free economy, you have to allow all things in. That's how we operate. What we have to do is to have the marketing and the support behind our own stuff. And once we can do that, then you will find that people will gravitate to our own stuff. Remember that if I am from overseas and I'm sending a product to another country, my job is to make sure that I make that product look more presentable and more attractive than what is locally, what is in the local market. So the person who is sending a product to Barbados is going to make it look better. The branding on it is going to be exciting. It's going to be telling you all the things to do it now. And again, remember, the world is the instant world. So I don't think we can stop because of our importation and our export. We have to bring stuff in, yes, but we have to ensure that we promote the local stuff better. Maybe the supermarkets and the places that are selling the stuff, maybe should have the local stuff prominently displayed and the other stuff there, but it's there, but it's not prominently displayed. So again, it's up to us we really are in control of it. We are in control of it. Just don't ever think that we have lost our control. We are in control and we determine our destiny.
I agree. We have our choices to make. So if I'm gonna say I'm not going to buy that particular brand, and you don't buy it, and everybody say they're not going to buy it, eventually that brand you don't have it anymore. You use your local brand or so on, or you do without all of these additional condiments and things on your food. So yeah.
I hear you, but several years ago, I heard one of a member of the political class say that don't care how much the item costs, once Bajans want it, they will pay for it. And it seems that like is how we are, because I know in other markets, if you buy a product and the price keeps going up and up and up, the people stop buying it. But we don't have that kind of culture here in Barbados. Any more questions, Norma? Anybody wants to ask anything?
I don't
I
have
just wanted
any
to
more
add quickly
questions.
before
go
we
ahead.
move on. From my childhood, basically, I remember going to camp, and it was actually called nutrition camp. And I'm wondering if stuff like this couldn't be implemented on a community level, whereas rather than have to pay kids to send, you could do things about healthy eating and healthy foods and show kids how to prepare. I remember I did that for a whole summer, and to be honest, I was amazed at the type of things we can do with local plants, local foods and stuff like that. And I think something like that could make a big comeback as like a community initiative. You can get farmers, local farmers with local produce. You can even get dietitians coming in to help show people how to prepare good food in a tasty way. You can even get local chefs to come and try to help. I'm not sure how something like that would be done, but I mean, something like that, it would be interesting to see how you can actually implement that on like how we had the chef show with kids and stuff like that, but do it on a larger scale, like each parish, that type of thing, to try to me, just educate people and just make it fun at the kid level. Because when you start things with kids, they grow and it becomes a habit. So that's just something that came to mind while listening to everyone with that.
As a solution, and another solution could be having community gardens. Community gardens, like where I live, there's a big park there. Half of the park could be used for the earth, and half of it could be used to plant, to have a community like this Easter, a community camp or something like that in the summer, as you say, to show children, to start with the young ones, show them how to plant a potato, a sweet potato, and then they watch it and how it grows, and it would be fun for the children. That is a solution there. Having community gardens to encourage more use of local food.
My community has started that.
Good.
We have Lynn, Dr. Carlisle again, having his hand raised to give a point or a suggestion.
Yeah, we love the idea of the family, of the community doing the cooking and so on. We, the Lions Club of Barbados, tried that initiative a couple of years ago, if most of us remember, looking at the obesity problem in Barbados. And one of the most disappointing factors that we found was that parents couldn't find the time to volunteer their children for these activities. And the Lions Club proposed a program where we would greet children in primary school age and just say first and second form years, asking parents to identify children who are overweight or who are at risk of diabetes and hypertension, and we would have a camp for them. And we canvassed almost all the secondary schools in Barbados and a good 80% of the primary schools. And despite sending out something well over 6,000 application forms, we got about less than 10 completed forms by parents. And this is relatively surprising because given the obesity prevalence of obesity in young children in Barbados to be this high, you would have expected that more parents would be willing to have their children guided about nutrition and so on. And unfortunately, parents can't find the time to bring their children there. Someone can pick them up and drop them off. That might be one thing, but they can't find the time to bring their children to sort of structure things. The community concept of the cooking, like the ED show and so on TV used to be very good because it highlighted Caribbean foods and more so Bajan foods. Because when you look at most of these nutritional guidelines, they speak of European foods and non-Caribbean foods in general. So the Caribbean Nutritional Institute in Jamaica and in Barbados put together a wonderful guide looking at the nutritional content for Caribbean food and products. And to this day, that's still a well-kept secret in Barbados. A lot of people don't know they exist, and these booklets are readily available should you go to the Nutritional Center in Gemmill Lane. But yes, I will welcome any concept where we can have open fora, where we can teach Barbadians and Caribbean people about the nutritional value of our foods and how best to make small portion foods work. So we can take what we have. So all the thing about no fresh vegetables, we have to import vegetables. Our forefathers survived before us, so we can use what we have and make well of it. We can do better, but we need to make that tremendous effort just to try. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. One of the
Dr. Carlisle made a point that they were looking for obese children.
Yes.
My concern is, should we be separating them from the rest?
Mm-hmm.
Because what we are doing when we do that is stigmatize them. And that might contribute to their parents not wanting them to attend.
Yes.
So if we looked at the group in general, then that stigma issue may be negated and we may get more participation. But I know we'll still not get enough participation because for this Zoom meeting, I was expecting to see 300 people.
Yeah.
I think that, as Dr. Goddard says, we have to make the effort. And if a topic is not sexy, you will find that Bajans are not going to be gravitating to it. And that makes me segue now into something else when we were talking about the interconnectedness of extreme weather, the climate crisis, and COVID-19. And for the pharmacists and the health professionals, I found that COVID-19 showed humanity the healing power of science. And science, they were able to develop these vaccines in a short space of time. How can we use our planet, the biodiversity, the plants, to help in assisting us again in promoting healthy lifestyles amongst ourselves, our families, and then sustaining the planet? I had a very bad flu several weeks ago, and there is a plant. I don't know if Dr. Wanza says he's been living here for 30 years, so he might know. I'm segueing now into alternative medicines. And there's a plant called, Dr. Goddard might know it, oil leaf. it grows wild around here, but I know my grandmother used to use that when she had a headache. She would go and pick oilies and tie her head with these things. When I was sick as a child, my mother, like I had the flu, I would go and pick the oilies and put them in a pillowcase and stuff them in my nightgown. When I woke up the next morning, I felt so much better. Should we be looking back at these, going back, turning our minds back to using some of these alternative old-time remedies along with the healing powers of science to help save ourselves and our planet?
The plant, Rosemary, I'm talking about is the castor oil plant.
Right.
The seeds that you get is what, when you roast them, you get castor oil out of that. And you see them growing around Barbados in the world in abundance.
Yes, but
Yes,
they're seen as pests, nuisances.
Yes, yes. But the point you're making in terms of alternative medicine, I remember Big Pharma sending these teenage boys and girls from the US and from Britain and whatever European country. And they would come into the villages and pretend they want to experience village life. They want to live with you and experience village life. And they will be asking, so when you have a headache, what do you use? And they would collect the leaf or the root, if it was the root. And when they got back to their countries, they submitted those samples to Big Pharma. Big Pharma did the scientific analysis, identified the active ingredient, and made something synthetic out of that. And when they bring it back to us, nicely colored and packaged, that is what we will accept. But when grandmother says, take that leaf or 2 leaves and boil them, we will say we don't know how much you should take.
Yes, that is true.
The issue with Big Pharma medication is that they know the active ingredient, and probably the pharmacist might speak to this.
Mm-hmm.
When they produce that synthetic equivalent of the active ingredient, they have to add some additives to stabilize it. And they have no idea what effect those additives would have on your body. They know what the active ingredient will have, the effect it will have on your body, but not the other additives. So when you take the medication and you have the side effects, some of those side effects are coming from those additives that have been added to stabilize that medication. But we'll be told, don't take the herbs because you don't know how much you're going to take. Our grandparents grew up taking that medication and survived. I am not saying we abandon the Western medicine,
Agreed.
but I see no reason why we cannot promote some of that. And if necessary, measure out how many leaves or what size bark we need to make the medication work.
The pharmacist, Sheena?
Yes, please. Well, my main thing with that is, as you said, quantities. Because
Yes.
I usually get people coming to me, they always come to me, and the first thing is identification of the correct plant. That is the main thing. Number 2, the amount of quantities. I've had people who've been drinking bush, and when you hear the shout, their blood pressure dropped too low because they used too much. So I don't have a problem with herbs. My thing is that once you are aware of the proper quantities and what you're using it for, and if it is the right plant, I don't have a problem with that. My biggest thing is when people, they don't know what they're doing, and everybody think they're a pharmacist, a bushman,
Yes.
chemist,
Yes.
and
Yes.
then I
Problem.
always get the people running in after something has happened. But I
Yeah.
know people, even my mother, they grew up on snuff, they grew up on this, they grew up on that.
Yeah.
And they're all still alive, they're all still kicking. But at the end of the day, if you asking these new generation people to go and do that stuff, you're asking for trouble, to
Yes.
be honest.
Agreed.
A lot of
Agreed.
people don't even know the machineel is very dangerous either. You can see somebody using crushing machineel leaves and making a paste to rub on their hands and stuff like that. So again, education is the key. All medication, whether it be plant-based, whether it be chemical-based, synthetic, non-synthetic, everything has side effects. You might not notice it. It might not be as pronounced as one or the other, but everything has side effects. And I say everything in moderation. Big Pharma obviously would have benefited from these type of things, but there's still, I was speaking to a professor and he swore that the cure for cancer was somewhere in the Caribbean. So I think those are avenues that we need to explore. It is about how we're going to do it and how we're going to benefit it as, you know, Caribbean people, as agriculturists. It's just to implement these things. Even look at cannabis. We know we have fertile lands capable of, you know, supporting cannabis growth, THC, all that type of stuff. But everybody else then is going to come here and benefit off of that before us, when we should really be at the forefront of that type of stuff. So it's a matter of how we're going to implement it and who is going to implement it to benefit us at this point.
Okay, well, we are actually in the home stretch, and I want to give everybody an opportunity to give their parting shots. And one of the things I found while I was preparing for this discussion, and I was looking at the World Health Day website, they said that 13 million deaths around the world each year are due to avoidable environmental causes. And when I looked at that, I looked at everything in the environment, weather, the processed foods, the pandemics that we have been facing in the last 50, 60 years or so. So I want to give everybody an opportunity to give their parting shots. And I want really to start with Miss, let me get her name before I forget it, Miss Bascom. Since she is the person who is one of the people who are actually on the ground dealing with us and our beliefs about the environment and what we have to do and when we do it. And Ms. Bascom, I want you to give your parting shot. What do you want us to do?
We have to take care of our environment. And because it impacts greatly on our health, so you have to look at the things in the environment that will impact on your health and make that change. Whether it be related to pollution, whether it be outdoor pollution, indoor pollution, whether it be something related to food safety, whether it's something related to vector control, solid waste management. So you think of your activities and is what I'm going to do impact on the environment?
Okay.
It comes down to us making the choice to do the right thing.
Thank you very much. Again, I want to hear from you.
The parting shots, like the word of parting shots, but my closing comment would be that I'd like to encourage everyone to do better. And that's all, just do better. So where you can make that impact, we talk about managing water, or eating habits, or healthy lifestyle. We look at my field, which is life insurance and health insurance, looking at maybe trying to see if you can get some health insurance in place. I mean, most plans cover family, you know, husband, wife, children can be covered on the same plan. Persons that work in employer-employee situations, most companies have medical insurance available for staff. If you're not in that environment, there's the BUT, the NUPW, there's BARP, you know, there's so many other avenues out there where you can try to get some medical insurance. And I'm saying, even though your health may be good now, you are getting it now for when something does happen, that you have a backup plan in place. So I could only say that let us continue, and especially with our environment, or area, or age group, or generation, let us try to make our own contribution to help those around us, you know, our children and those that look up to us, maybe show them and go back to some of the things that we would have benefited from, so that they will have the opportunity to share with their generation. Because if we don't, they will have nothing to pass on. That's it from me.
Thank you very much. Ms. Bino?
Yes, thank you. I think that, like we say, we should ensure safe, clean water all the time. We should support efforts to reduce waste. We can turn off lights and so on in the home, and buy fresh groceries from the local producers, and avoid the processed foods. And like our health promotion unit right now, we have a sneaker day tomorrow, Friday, where we are encouraged to bring your sneakers, wear your sneakers, move from around your desk sometimes, use the stairs instead of the elevator, go outside for a bit and come back. You know, so as workplace wellness policies, and so we are working on that to increase movement within the workforce. Because remember, we do a lot of sitting down, so
Yes.
we got to keep moving.
And Miss Dr. Mwansa, you want to have a final comment before I hand over to Norma?
Okay, again, I will stick to my theme. At individual level, most of us have plenty of knowledge that we could share. Let's take the time to share at community level, at individual level. Remember Kamita?
Yes. Food first.
Food come first.
She passed on, and we abandoned the knowledge that she was trying to share with us.
Yes.
That knowledge is still very, very, very relevant up to today.
Yes.
And we have to find ways to prepare our foods such that the children that we're saying don't want it will be in a position to accept it because it tastes good according to the new taste. One of the things I realized recently is that when you talk about eating well and healthy, you're basically going back to poor man's food. But because we have given it the name poor man's food, we don't want to eat it. But it's the best food you could eat. And we should not be ashamed of the poor man's food.
Dr. Mwansa, I have to tell Dr. Mwansa, I have to tell that poor. There's no such thing as poor man's food now, because I'm going to hand over now, Norma. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday, and he was telling me that he normally buys red herring to eat, but he asked me, you see the price of red herring recently, even poor man food, I can't afford to buy. That is a anecdotal story that I would like to end on and hand over to Norma. Norma?
Thank you, Rosemary.
She remind her to
remind me.
Okay.
Yes, Sheena didn't give her closing, sorry.
Sheena?
All right, basically just to sum up what everyone is saying, we only have one body, and basically we need to control what we put into it, and we need to control where we put it in terms of the external factors and that type of thing. Everything we do impacts on our health and our well-being, and basically we need to live our full potential with that one body, one life, and just make the most of it. That's it.
Excellent point. Excellent point. And thank you all. I really enjoyed talking to everybody this evening. Norma?
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, good night. We have come to an end of a wonderful and informative discussion. So I will move the vote of thanks now. Once again, good night. Thanks to all the panelists for agreeing to sit on our panel this evening. It was a wonderful, informative, enlightening discussion.
It was.
And I'm sure that after tonight, we will look more in depth on the stuff that we do each and every day, things that we take for granted and things that we can work on and impact on our day-to-day activities. So I would like to single out some of you for being here this evening. This discussion would not have been made possible without your input and without your presence. So I want to say a wonderful thank you for being here. So I would like to thank Lance Sherwin Greenwich, past council chairman, for invoking the word of God with us this evening to start our proceedings. I want to thank our IT host, Lion Wendy Labari, who's our region chairperson and the IT person for the multiple district. I want to thank our Lion Zone chairman for bringing the words of welcome and opening remarks. Our Lion Zone secretary, Lion Allison Bishop, who did the background work in sending out all the emails to the panelists and the supporting persons who made this evening possible. So let me thank Miss Rosemary Allen for agreeing to be our moderator for this evening. After being asked first and foremost before the panel was formed, she heartfeltly agreed to be here with us this evening. And I want to thank you for leading the discussion in the way which you did it. We all learned something this evening, and we now know how we can go about when we want to moderate something. We have wonderful pointers and tidbits that we picked up from you this evening. I want to thank Ms. Bascom for being here with us and bringing us your wealth of knowledge journey from the environmental health perspective. And Nurse Bino, the Chief Public Health Nurse, for bringing us the community nursing aspect of it, because there's a lot of persons out there who don't know about the community nursing aspect that is available to us in Barbados. So thank you for sharing that knowledge with us this evening and letting us know what good work that you are doing from your end and side from the ministry. I want to thank Sheena for agreeing, Ms. Ramsey, the pharmacist, for bringing us from the community point of view pharmacist, where persons that are not comfortable in speaking to their doctor might go to the pharmacist and get advice, and for sharing that knowledge this evening. I want to thank you, Gay, for being here to bring us tidbits from the insurance perspective. As we know, a lot of Bajans and some other people, they have fears of insurance. And thank you for trying to encourage us and telling us about the different ways how we can go about planning for things to come, even though we might think that we are above it, but there's always the unexpected. So, and I want to thank Len, Dr. John, for wearing two hats this evening, for bringing us the Lions End and taking us from the Water Authority and Barbados. So I want to thank you. I want to thank those who have also joined into the discussion. Len, Dr. Carlisle, for answering and sharing some of his knowledge and showing different types of bits. So this evening, and you, the wonderful audience, the Lions that are here with us this evening, for sharing the link to friends and family. For those in the Lions Club of Bridgetown who we have shifted our meeting from this evening to next week to accommodate this panel discussion. You have been a wonderful audience this far, and I know that some of you would not have left work as yet and are tired and want to go home. So I want to thank you for being here with us. Those who are non-Lions, I want to thank you for joining us as well, because you helped make this evening possible. So from the organizing committee, from the Lions Club of Barbados Zone 3A, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Those who have to travel to their homes, I wish you safe journey. Those who are at home, I wish you a peaceful night rest. I thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for having me.
You're most
Thank you.
welcome,
Bye-bye.
Sheena.
Thank
Good
you
night,
for
all.
inviting me,
Bye.
Princess from Brooklyn, Farragut.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Good
you.
to have you. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night.
Sorry about that. Good night. Good night. Thank
night.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good night to all.
Good night, Lion Jillian.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Norma, very good presentation. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, Lan Maria.
Good night, night, night. Excellent presentation.
Thanks,
Bye.
Rochelle. Good night.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye.